Welcome to the Michael Singer Podcast, presented by Sounds True, in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information about Michael Singer's work, access to all prior episodes, and information about upcoming releases, we invite you to join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com.
Jai Gurudev, Jai Masters. As you go much deeper into yourself, into the path, not just some spiritual experiences, you had a nice day, nice time, nice retreat, nice vacation. Talking about really starting to settle deeply within yourself and staying there. One thing you're going to notice, which is very difficult to talk about, but I'm going to try. You know, air is everywhere. It's everywhere. But somehow the air that you breathe is different. If you could see the flow of the molecules, they're everywhere. But then you breathe in, they come, some of them, the same ones as everybody else, but some of them come into you because you breathe them in. You brought them in, but they're the same as everything else. And you breathe them out, and you merge back. The time in which it spends in you, you see as really special. There's an analogy. Don't think of it as your life breath. Just talking about how energy moves. There's energy everywhere. There's Shakti everywhere. Everywhere, equally the same, just like air. There's God everywhere, absolutely everywhere, just like air. But when you breathe it in, you identify with it. You do something really funny. You no longer see it as everywhere. You see it as something that's you, something that's part of you. So when Shakti, which is everywhere, comes into you, and that's your energy, your life force, your prana, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't really go out. It's so hard to talk about. Let's look at it this way. Another analogy. Take a glass, just a regular drinking glass, and stick it upside down in the water, in the ocean or in a lake. The water that you now see inside that glass, it's not the same water. The water in the ocean is flowing through that all the time. It's not stagnant inside that glass. If you stick the glass in upside down, you're going to see water stays there. It looks like, oh, look, there's water in there. But it's not the same water. There's no way in the world it's the same water. The natural flow of the ocean, of the water, is flowing through that glass by keeping it full because of the laws that hold it together. That is what's happening to your Shakti. That's what's happening to your consciousness. It has come into a container, and therefore it feels small. It feels like, that's me. Forget looking at it from outside. Now go inside the glass. This works much better. You're now inside the glass, looking out. You're limited. You have to look through the shell, the outer shell, up, sides that are imprisoning your awareness of being. You feel you're that. You are the water inside that glass. You're not. You're the ocean. You're the entire ocean. When? All the time. It's never not been that way. But you put these artificial barriers, the glass, that's not a natural thing, right? The glass is now, I might say, taking the water because it's not doing anything. The natural flow of the universe is flowing through this glass, but you're looking out through the glass. And therefore, everything outside that glass is not you. Everything inside the glass is you. There, do you understand that? I know it's difficult. It's not you. That's not you in that glass. You are the ocean. But because there's this artificial barrier, which we'll talk about what it is, that makes it so that your consciousness is trapped inside the glass. It thinks that's what I am. I'm the glass. And I'm looking out at everybody out there. Oh my God, there's fish out there. There's sharks out there. There's water out there. I would drown. I don't want to go out there. I got to stay inside my shell. That's how you would be. That's how you are. That is ego. That artificial glass is what you did with your mind. The mind has nothing to do with the ocean. The ocean is consciousness. It's everywhere. It's equal everywhere. Even inside everybody's glass, and there's a whole bunch of them, it's the same consciousness. You see, it's the same water, isn't it? It's the same water flowing through every single one of those glasses. So this concept of universal consciousness, I don't like to use the words. It sounds so mystical and so spiritual. No, it's the ocean flowing through the barrier. It flows through, around, and it doesn't know anything about you in there. It couldn't care less. But you're in there. Your consciousness has glued yourself inside that glass. And so you say, I am the body. I am my thoughts. I am my emotions. You are not. You're the ocean of consciousness that's free and liberated and flowing throughout the entire universe. But you put this barrier around it. Why? Well, now you're talking deep. You're literally talking about the fall from the garden. The natural state is your oneness with everything. You're one with God. You're one with the whole universe. There's just an ocean. There's an ocean of consciousness. Well, what happened? What happened is exactly with Adam and Eve taking the fruit and all that kind of stuff in the fall from the garden. But I'm not biblical, so I really don't want to tie it together. So what happened? What happened is instead of being universal, you somehow saw yourself as an individual. When God was walking around the garden, because Adam and Eve were one with God. They were all one. They're just looking at creation, like you'd look at the ocean. One consciousness looking at the creation of form. But all of a sudden, it's a nice part of the Bible. I don't read the Bible, but I like it. In Genesis, God's walking around, and he says, Adam, where are you? I'm one with you. Where can you go? We're all one. We're one ocean. Okay? And Adam doesn't say anything. And all of a sudden he says, check it out. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And Adam says, here am I. And God says, what are you doing? I'm hiding. Whoa, that is so deep. One, who's this I? There's just one ocean. There's no I. There's no separation. There's no duality. There's just God. And Adam is God and one with God, like Christ. My Father and I are one. Right? There they are. But all of a sudden he said, I was hiding. I'm hiding. One, who are you hiding from? And how do you hide from the universe, which you are? Right? And so what happened is this concept of individuality. That's the fall from the garden. This concept that I am separate from the whole. The birth of that concept is the fall from the garden. And they say from the fall from the garden that now you must work by the sweat of your brow to be okay. You know anything about that? You know about working the sweat of your brow to make relationships work and make your finances work and make people like you and nobody not like you and be scared and insecure. Anybody know anything about that kind of stuff? Working by the sweat of your brow? Anybody work with the sweat of their brow from the time they wake up in the morning, go to bed at night? Come on. Okay? It's like you are now see yourself as this consciousness inside this glass. You're separate. And so now you have to worry about what's outside the glass. There's scary things out there. No, there's just the ocean. It's the same as you. There's nothing out there but you. Do you understand that? I know you don't. This is hard. Just for tonight, will you let go and understand you are the ocean? You're not the water inside the glass. But you look out through the glass, and therefore there's a me and a not me. And that's the birth of the ego. I am separate. Are you not? Separate from everything else? I, me, and mine. It's my boyfriend and my child and my job and what I like. How often you use the word I? Okay? What's the most used letter in the entire alphabet? I like this. I don't like this. I don't like what you said to me. I wish I could go there. I can't believe I didn't get that. I can't believe you got what I didn't. Total separation. You are separate from everything, aren't you? And because it's not comfortable being in there, having to deal with all these other forces out there that you're scared to death of, you don't realize there's nothing out there but the flow of consciousness passing through your cup. But you don't see that. You're not looking down. If you were, by the way, meditation isn't going up. Meditation is looking down, like ceasing to look out, and all of a sudden you're looking down and the water pulls you out. That's enlightenment. My father and I are one. The ocean and I are one. Can you get any taste of it? That's who you are right now. Not what you want to be, not what you're trying to be. That's what it is. But while you're looking out through that glass, you build all these ideas inside your head that I have to take care of myself. I have to have boundaries. I have to dreams and hopes and visions and attract to myself what I want. And I have to get everything to be the way that this little thing, this tiny bit of consciousness, the tiny awareness that's inside of you, stuck inside of you, you're trying to make everything outside match you. The only time you're okay in there is when you think that it's going to be the way you want it to be in there. Well, how'd you decide what you want it to be? Well, once there was this big fish with fins on it. I don't want to see that again. Okay, it's just the ocean and there's fish. But not you. You get scared. And so you held in there this thought. Inside that little container, you can do lots of things. You can build thoughts and hopes and dreams and concepts and views and fears and desires, can't you? About what? About how the consciousness that is stuck in there, which is very, very small compared to the ocean, the consciousness, the tiny bit of consciousness that's stuck in there, thinks it can only be okay if what experience it had before matches now, it doesn't match now, and it's busy out there trying to do what? Oh, no. Spin its wheels. I see the hamster on the wheel. Come on, baby, run. Ain't going nowhere. Not going anywhere. It's just that because you got scared by certain things, you don't want them to happen again. If they're not happening, you feel better. If they start to happen or you even think about them happening, you feel worse. So you're caged inside this tiny little glass. If you ever get out, imagine getting out of that glass and realizing you're the ocean. That's what Christ meant by my Father and I are one. There's no duality. There's just oneness. You're going to underwrite a chant. I am the bubble, make me the sea. On the sea, there's these little bubbles. When they pop, they become the ocean again. They were always the ocean. They're made of the ocean. All right? Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. Wave of the sea, dissolve in the sea. I am a bubble, make me the sea. That's an enlightened being singing to you, telling you who you are. You're trapped inside this glass, and you built a house in there. You played house. If I'm going to have to be in here, then things have to be a certain way. Like, nobody's in there with you. I know you think they are. They are not. But there can be another one trapped in there, and you can interact with each other and think that we can get married. We can be one. We can have a wonderful life together. Then you find out there's limitations in that life, and that the consciousness inside that glass had different experiences than you did. The ocean, what was going on to it is different what was going on to you. But you don't think that way because you're so lonely. How can you not be lonely? You've separated yourself from the universe. All right? But it's real. This is what enlightenment is. This is why there's pictures of masters hanging on the walls. Are they saints? No, they're way beyond saints. They're beings who got out. It's called Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul. Not a nice guy or gal, a totally liberated being. They have merged with the ocean. They are one. So, how did it happen? How did God end up inside this glass? Well, he didn't. He's not in the glass. He's just the ocean that's moving through the glass. So I always teach you, you are already one with God. There's no going anywhere. There's ceasing to leave. All right? So what happened? What caused this? What happened is the moment, the seed, that's called the original sin. To me, the original sin is the initial seed that pulled the universal consciousness down to focus on you. But it did it all over the place, all right? But it's like the sun has rays, does it not? Do not the same rays come down to the earth and heat everything on the field and bring light? But each ray is separate. They come on separate. So that's what's shining on your thoughts, on your emotions, on your body, is this one ray. It's the same sun. It's the same light. I keep giving analogy after analogy. It's just one. But you are looking at the ray that illuminates your body, your thoughts, and your emotions, which are inside of you. You don't pick up his thoughts. Once in a while you can, but right? You wouldn't want to. Yogananda once said that at the period of his growth, when he walked outside, everyone's thoughts were hitting him. There was no longer a separation between his thoughts and anybody else's. They were just the ocean of thoughts. Well, what is separating? You're right next to each other. Maybe you're even married. Maybe you love each other. Maybe you lived together for 30 years. What is separating your thoughts from her thoughts? You. What do you mean? I don't understand. Aren't they right next to each other? What do you think? There's a real barrier in your thoughts? The reason you only pick up your thoughts is because they're the only ones you care about. Therefore, you stare at those. If there's a picture in the room that you really like or really don't like, your consciousness fixates on that. That's what's happening inside your little ocean of thoughts. Those thoughts are everywhere. They're just like the ocean of form. There's an ocean. But what you created thoughts in your past, and you're saying those thoughts matter, no matter how much, more than anything. What I want is more important than what anybody else wants. Look at politics. Look at people. Look what's going on. And it's not different. Everyone's doing the same thing. I matter, don't I? Don't treat me like that. You know how I want to be treated, and I matter. Who matters? The one who's focusing on this tiny little bit of water inside this tiny glass when really they're the whole universe. But they're making a big deal out of that little glass, aren't they? How big a deal do you make out of that little tiny bit of consciousness that is stuck inside of you? Why is it stuck inside of you? Because it is what you are interested in. All right? A baby gets born. It happens. I like this conversation. A baby gets born. It's a miracle. Where'd the baby come from? And just all of a sudden there's this single cell and it's brilliant and it takes food, air and sunlight and water and it makes a baby. Doesn't it? You didn't do it. It makes a liver and a pancreas and an eyeball and a pineal gland. You don't even know where it is. It makes everything. But when it comes out, you say, this is my child. What about the one over there? That's not mine. Okay? I, me, mine. That's what it means to have your consciousness stuck inside of a limited container, and that's where it is. It's limited by your body. You think that's special. 35 trillion living cells make up your body. Same with her, and they're all interacting together, and you say it's your body. One time you said, thank you. What would happen if they didn't interact together? One cell goes rogue. It's called cancer. Wake up. This I, me, mine stuff is absurd. It's what happened when what happened? Your union and then something distracted your consciousness. And the great masters have written what they say it is. I don't want to discuss it. None of my business, all right? That's graduate, that's beyond graduate, postgraduate school. Let them talk about it, all right? What pulled the universal consciousness down to individuality? The first thing, whatever it is, it distracted your consciousness to focus on that. This primal force that was everywhere, fish are everywhere, but somehow that one caught your attention enough to where it kept your attention. That's all that has to happen. I don't care what it is. Whether it's your body, whether it's something, whatever it is. Something caught the attention of that ocean of consciousness, so it focused on that as opposed to something else. The shark swam by, so did lots of other fish, but somehow it caught your attention. And you paid more attention to that than to the rest of the things that were going on. And you started to build a you. I focused on this, therefore it didn't swim away. It did swim away, but not on me, it didn't swim away. But it was called clinging. I clung to it. It stayed inside my water. I don't understand, it's just water. Yeah, but I can make form out of the water. That's all thought forms. I can make stuff inside this little glass, all right? So I held the shark. What happens now? I'm the one that doesn't like the shark. That glass over there, they like the shark for whatever reason, okay? And all of a sudden, these total differentiations take place of the consciousness experiencing what it held on to until it grows so much in there, so complex, that you're paying more attention, your consciousness pays more attention to what is going on inside the glass than what's going on outside the glass. Right now, that's all you pay attention to. It's your thoughts, your feelings, your body. Yes or no? Is it not true that your thoughts are more important than many other thoughts? Of course they are. Is it not true that your emotions, look how sensitive you are with your emotions. God, I can't believe you said that. How could you say that to me? It's just a vibration in the universe. It just passed through your glass, but it didn't make it through. Don't you ever talk to me like that ever again. He is so cute. Are you listening? Are you not like that? That's because you fixated on what you built inside of your head. You had experiences that they didn't leave impressions. You held on to them. That's why they're impressions. You have will in there. You can hold on to a thought. You can hold on to an emotion. You can hold on to the concept of your body. You can hold on. Oh my God, there's a scratch in the glass. The glass is holding your stupid consciousness together. Oh my God, it's foggy out. What are you doing? You're just locked inside this glass. It's consciousness locked inside of a prison of your own making. It's not even in there. I told you. Keep this straight. It's always flowing through. It's totally different consciousness, water that is in it at any moment, at any other moment. And that is true of you. But because you're looking out at what caught your attention, you focus your attention on, instead of the self, instead of the consciousness, instead of the ocean of God, you focus your attention on the external object that you clung to that is inside that glass. And so now you're paying more attention to your thoughts, your emotions, your likes, your dislikes, your hopes, your dreams, your values. I'm sorry, nothing's sacred. It's all the same. I asked you once, and I'm not asking you not to have hopes and dreams. I'm talking about, let's go beyond ourselves just for the night. Can we do that? Just to have fun. What would it be like to be liberated? Okay? It's like, okay, do you have hopes in there, in that glass? Have you formulated hopes? Of course you have. What are your hopes? I hope it'll be the way I want. Which one do you want to be the way you don't want? Okay? And where did you get want and not want? You had past experiences. Some were pleasant, some were not. The ones that were not pleasant, you don't want to have again. I hope it'll never happen again. The ones that were pleasant, I hope it happens again. You're doing all this inside the stupid glass, as if you are that water in the glass. You're not. You're the ocean. And so you're trapped inside a cage of your own making. And you're caught there. Why? Because you keep looking out instead of in. If you're looking out at the glass, at the thoughts you made in the glass, and what's outside that glass, you're looking out. Meditation or spiritual awakening is looking in. What happens if you stop looking out? You realize, oh, I'm in here. I was looking out at things and I got very attached to the things I was looking out at, didn't I? This is my friend, this is my enemy, this is what I like, this is my finances, everything, just all about. But what happens if you stop doing that? The moment you stop looking out, you start experiencing who you are, the consciousness inside, but not the mind. The mind, believe it or not, it's so hard for me to talk. Believe it or not, your mind and your thoughts are outside of you. Outside the glass? No, you built all this stuff in the glass. So your mind appears a different vibration inside the glass, but it's still your thought forms. It's still something you built, and you're distracted by them, are you not? You're distracted more by your thoughts and emotions than you are by what's going on outside the glass. Okay? It's like you're caught in there. Meditation and deep spiritual awakening, that's Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Pratyahara. Are you able to withdraw your attention from your senses? Can you be centered, quiet, without getting distracted by what's outside that glass? And that's the ability to withdraw your senses so they're not experiencing this. And that sounds weird, all right? I'm going to talk about Patanjali, but it's a beautiful state. You do it all the time. What? Pratyahara, if you know the word. Withdrawing your attention from the senses. Every single time you go to sleep, you've withdrawn your consciousness from the outside world. Wow, you're pretty special. That's stage one. You're able to withdraw your consciousness from the senses. How come you have to go to sleep to do that? Why can't you just sit there and say, oh, that's what it means, pratyahara, right? So what happens next? The next stage is now you're inside because you're not being pulled outside. But where's inside? It's that junk you built inside your glass that's not form. It's not physical. Physical's outside. But you built thoughts and emotions in there. How? You held on to them. You clung to them. You built all this thing. You got an ego? Does it have things it wants and doesn't want, what it likes and doesn't like? Where'd you get all that? You had experiences and you held on to them. So imagine inside that glass, you got this whole thing you built. Can you let go of that? You let go of the outside world distracting you. Can you not be distracted by the thoughts and emotions that you built in here that are rather distracting? Anybody notice how hard it is to not get caught up in your emotions, not get caught up in your thoughts? And now we're going to go really deep. What if they're really positive emotions? To a yogi, it's the same. If they're distracting you and you're paying attention to them and you can't let go, there's nothing wrong with positive, nothing wrong with negative. But can you let it pass? Or do you have to define it as, no, I have to stop now because I love her so much, I don't want to go anywhere, and nobody ever talk to her. And all of a sudden you're building all this mess in there because you can't handle positive, you can't handle negative. Okay? So that basically you're in there, and the next stage, dharana, all right, is can you, it's funny, he doesn't talk about it as withdrawing from the senses, he's withdrawing your consciousness from the senses. He talks about dharana being the ability to focus your consciousness, your awareness on a single point, all right? It's the same. In order to focus on a single point, you have to withdraw the distraction of all the other points. That's why am I meditating on a candle? What's so holy about a candle? Nothing. But if you can one-pointedly focus on the candle instead of all the else that's going on in there, you're getting there, right? So he didn't call that meditation. But how does he call that concentration? That is. What is concentration? The focus of consciousness. That's what concentration is. Focusing consciousness on, you're trying to think something out in your mind, you have to focus your consciousness, don't you? You get distracted, you try to focus it again. Well, when you can focus your consciousness sufficiently inside, focus the water inside, so it's not being pulled out, consciousness, it's in, and now you put it on one point of devotion, one pointed focus. It's not being distracted. That's a very high state. But it's not meditation. It's concentration. It's very deep concentration. But you have to go through that doorway. Otherwise, you're being distracted by all your thoughts and emotions. Yogananda once talked about a lady who wrote him when Master had given lessons out, back, he gave him over in 20s, who knows what it was, right? But she wrote him, said, I meditate every single day. And Yogananda asked her, well, what do you meditate on? What's happening in your meditation? If you meditate every day, you're doing it for years, you're not growing at all, I don't understand. To which the lady writes, while I'm sitting there, I hear the maids and the helpers and the husband talking, and everybody's talking. I try to pay attention to make sure I know what they're up to, so I know what to do when I come back. You sit there all you want, you ain't going anywhere, all right? So are you capable of not being distracted by your thoughts and your emotions? And the answer, of course, is no. But if you've gone to deep meditation, you've touched some spots, okay? What happens when you come back? Yes or no? Who's noticed that? People write me all the time. I was so deep in meditation, but when I came back, it was worse. It was worse. I felt that the mind was neurotic and my emotions were bothering me. Yes, because you let go for a minute and felt the peace and depth that you're capable of. And then, of course, it comes back. Why? Because there's a reason it's there. Why is it there? Because you held on to it across your entire life. You held on what daddy did and mommy did and what your sister did and brother did. And first grade, oh my God, how they treated you. You held on to all this garbage inside the glass so that now your consciousness is fixated on form and it's fixated on thoughts and emotions. So Patanjali says when you can focus one pointedly instead of all over the place, bring your consciousness, your awareness down to just one point. There's a very deep state and you're ready to enter the portals of meditation. That's not meditation. Meditation is dhyan. What is that? When that one-pointed consciousness directs itself back to its source. When you're contemplating consciousness itself, that's meditation. Now you're back to the ocean. Now you're back to where did awareness come from? Forget where they ended up. Ended up on all these things you built to distract you. What would happen if you weren't distracted? You would feel you would feel the Shakti flow. Literally, you'd feel a Shakti flow. What is that? You're now sensitive enough to not be distracted. You feel the flow of the water passing through the glass. It's always been there. It's always replenishing the glass, but you're distracted outwardly. Mind, I told you, eventually you will realize your thoughts and your emotions are outside of you. That's when you know you're getting somewhere. Ramakrishna used to talk about his body as this. This doesn't want to go. This doesn't like that. He didn't identify with it. He just, oh, there it is down there. That's because your consciousness did not get distracted into these thoughts, emotions, and physical form. And it's the next thing you know, you feel the flow. You use those words. You don't really feel the words. You literally feel the flow. It's gorgeous. It's intoxicating. Why? It's the core of your being. It's where you came from. It's who you always were and always are and will never not be. Do you see it? That same consciousness got distracted by the objects of consciousness that you built inside your glass, that you held in there. If you didn't hold them in there, they're not in there. But they are in there, aren't they? Okay? And so basically now you fall back into that state. And there are many stages of that state. And I don't want to talk about them. Let the masters talk about them. Okay? Like that first experience of feeling that I'm not what I'm looking at. It's witness consciousness. I am the consciousness seeing the thoughts, seeing the emotions, seeing what's coming through my senses, but I'm only seeing it. I'm the experiencer, not the experience. So you say to me, make you understand, I had a really bad experience. You don't want to talk to me. I don't do one-on-one because you won't like me. Because I would ask you, when you say, I had a really bad experience, who did? I want to talk about the experience. Who had the experience? How do you know you had the experience? Well, you don't even know how to answer. Because I'm in here. Who's in there? There you go. It's always turning it back to the source of consciousness, not what you're conscious of. That is the spiritual journey. So when you get back into the deeper states, you do feel the Shakti. When all the time, every single second of the rest of your life, you feel this energy. What does Christ say? Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that leaveth the mouth of God. It means, yes, you get some juice from outside if you get what you want, but you're being fed from inside. That's that flow. That's what we call Shakti. They call it spirit. I was in the spirit on the Lord's day. What does that mean? You weren't hanging out here. You got pulled inside. So you feel this energy, and you'll feel it all the time. And what happens when you go really deep over time, you feel it flowing. It's beautiful. You're sitting in it. And then something happens outside. Outside includes your mind and your emotion. Remember I told you? You look down. You will get to the point where you look down at your thoughts and look down at your emotions and sure look out to the outside world. It's miles and eons away from you, and you're in here, okay? But something happens outside, and you'll feel it disturb that flow. Why? It started to attract the consciousness back out. Therefore, you can't feel the flow. You anyone know anything about that? You can't feel the flow. And some people are doing very well. I've met people. I love all of it. I love all of it. I've learned so much from everybody and from me, right? That are really sincere, and they go really deep. And then something happens. I don't want to tell you, but usually it's a relationship. And there's nothing wrong with relationships. It's how you use them or abuse them. So basically, usually it's something that they can't handle. It pulls them out. There's something they really want or something they really don't want. And the next thing you know, I have met people that 30, 40, 50 years later, that guided their entire life. The avoidance of what they didn't want and trying to get what they did want. And usually it's not just one relationship. Usually something pulls you out because it has promise, but then we get divorced a few times or break up. Because what we're really looking for is to feel that peace, that love, that flow inside, right? But we can't do it if nothing matches our mind and matches our thoughts and patterns. So dhyan is when the one-pointed focus I don't know how to say it. It stops focusing on that one point. You mean it gets scattered? No. Because it's so focused on the one point, it's able to feel the pull of the Shakti pulling it back to its source. The source of the sunlight is the sun. There's just the sun emanating everything. So that is deep meditation. And the yogis talk about different states. Master used to talk about Sabikalpa Samadhi and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I had no intention of talking about this tonight. Here we are. All right? Well, what does that mean? You've been pulled away from your senses, been pulled away from your thoughts, been pulled away from your emotions. You feel the Shakti flow inside, witness consciousness. That's a nice state, right? That means I'm in here experiencing what I'm experiencing, but I'm not getting pulled into it. It's not distracting me enough to fall down. I can stay centered, clear. That's what you mean by centered, clear, all right? And the world can come and go. The thoughts can come and go. Everything can come and go. You mean you can control your thoughts so they're not there? I feel so sorry if you think that's what meditation is, because then you have to be there to control them. And you can reach a certain state. It is not about no thoughts. It is not about no emotions. It's about, can you handle that there are thoughts and emotions in the world unfolding, and you're fine. It just passes right through. Do the white lines in the road bother you very much? How many freak out over the white lines in the road? How about the 1,000 trees you drive by? How about the hundreds of thousands, millions of people you don't even know? You just walk right by. You're not being distracted by it. So there's nothing wrong with thoughts. There's nothing wrong with emotions. There's nothing wrong with form unless you're distracted by it. Then it pulls you out and you need to be a certain way. When you get to the deeper states of true witness consciousness, you're not even able, it happens naturally. You learn to let go. You just keep letting go. And the next thing you know, some things come and go. I told you, Ramakrishna, fully enlightened, the highest level that a person could be, reach a state. Somebody once asked him, Master, does an enlightened being ever feel anger? Well, that was early in my years when I read that, and I knew the answer was no. The answer was yes. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Yes, but it's like riding on water. What's the difference when you ride on water? Nobody can read it. It just passes right through. As you paint it, it goes away. That's what anger does. That's what any human emotions do. They come in, they pass through, and they feed you. They actually feed you. They turn into Shakti. They turn into beautiful energy because you're not resisting them. So when you get to the point that you have that state, that you've reached that state, it's called becoming established in the seat of self. You don't have to work at it. You've already done the work of letting go. You've done the work of not being distracted. And eventually it becomes very easy because the flow of the Shakti inside is real. The flow of Shakti inside is intoxicating. It's beautiful. It is the source of love. But you only get to have love if somebody says something nice to you or treats you the way you want to be treated. And it goes away very quickly, right? Not in this state. In this state, you're at the source of love itself. That's what the Shakti is. That's what the energy is. And it starts feeding you enough to where you're willing to let go of the rest. You literally reach a point where you get to say, all right, she didn't behave the way I expected her to. Normally, it would have bothered the heck out of me. Do I want to come down from where I am because of what she did? And all of a sudden the answer is, I don't think so. Not a chance in the world. And then all of a sudden, you can interact with her with compassion because you don't need anything. She didn't hurt you. You experienced it. It passed through. And now you can look and see, why would she say such a thing? Why is that going on? What can I do to help? Not help me. I don't need nothing. I didn't leave the love. I'm fine. Doesn't mean I can't serve. Doesn't mean I can't help. Doesn't mean that people are all in that state. And all of a sudden, it starts feeding you from inside. Man doesn't live alone, but by every word that leaves the mouth of God. You're being fed by the Shakti. You're being fed by the inner flow. It's very beautiful. All right. Is that a high state? No. No. Who can do that? You can do that if you work at it. And what's happened to the great ones is when they're not being distracted sufficiently to not be distracted, and they're just immersed in the devotion, the love, the light. Ramakrishna, I don't like to talk to you about these guys because it's just such a difficult thing to understand. All he saw was light. Not, oh, I saw the light. He literally described, once a disciple asked him, Master, the prime minister invited you to dinner. You went to dinner and we went with him. Well, we are disciples, we're building an ashram here, okay? And this great master, I really respected him, right? In the middle of dinner, you stood up and started drooling and singing God's name. And drooling out of your mouth. And, right? And later they asked him, don't you get embarrassed, Master? And he said, because he was like a child. He would always answer so honestly to share, let people understand these deep things. He said, do you know how you talk about like an apparition, like a ghost or something, that you're looking and all of a sudden you see this form kind of melting in and out? That's how I see your world. Every once in a while, you said there's a building. I kind of see a shadow, but it's blinded by the light that's always in there. Okay, right? He reached that state. Why? Because it is just light. That's what's in there. He doesn't see clouds. He doesn't see winter. He doesn't see summer. He sees the sun, wind all the time. That was a state these great ones can reach, all right? That is not a high state. What? That's a state that they could call it Sabikalpa Samadhi. That is with form. You, the consciousness, you're not lost in being distracted by what's outside of you. I told you everything's outside of you. So you're experiencing the feel of what the Shakti is like, which is pure light, pure ecstasy, pure love. And yogis, they call it Satchidananda, eternal conscious bliss. That's what you're experiencing, all right? But you're still there. What do you mean? You're there experiencing it. Same question. Who is? Who is experiencing the ecstasy? Who sees the light? Uh-oh, we're not done yet, eh? And so the great ones go past that state. Yogananda, when he entered that state of Sabikalpa Samadhi, he felt he had merged with the entire universe. Again, these are things you can taste a little bit in some deep states where I wanted to talk to you about that. Right now, you're here. If I ask, where are you? I'm here. So my awareness of being is in this spot. How about yours? Doesn't take up much room, does it? I already told you, it's really everywhere. All right? But it's being pulled down to you. What happens when it's not being pulled down to you? This thing called merger takes place. Meher Baba talked about when a drop of water falls into the ocean, find it. You'll never find it. It merged because there was always one. So they fall into a state. Yogananda fell into a state in which all the galaxies, all the universe was his body. Not he's sitting there looking at it. It was his body. Just like you identify with your body, the consciousness now spread out and felt itself as the ocean. All right? That's Sabikalpa Samadhi. He said the edges were all going at the speed of light in every direction, everywhere. It's expanding out. He was experiencing creation. Why? Because he made creation. That's what my Father Our One means. All right? Somebody once asked Meher Baba, these are great beings. I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's a passion of my life, but that's okay. I don't talk about it. The great being asked Meher Baba, because he sits there in Samadhi. He was in Samadhi all the time. All right? He was a very great being. There are very great beings that have been here. So he's experiencing that, and he's sitting there, and you can feel the energy around a great being. And somebody once asked him, Master, Meher Baba, who are you? Who are you? He said, I was in the beginning, before all else was created, and I will be in the end, after all else falls away. There was never a time I was not, and there will never be a time I will not be. Oh, I see. That's who's in there. Help. Okay. So the next stage is, instead of I'm experiencing my divinity, I'm experiencing oneness, I'm experiencing this. And people have that state, and they go into that state, and maybe it takes lifetimes to go past this. None of my business. Okay, believe me. But basically, the next stage, and Ramakrishna went into the next stage, is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Sabikalpa Samadhi is samadhi with form, is merging with the universe with form. Nirvikalpa is merging into the formless. That before it formed as form. I was talking about the quantum field that's down there vibrating. It makes everything. Yeah, but what about before it vibrated? The void. That's what the Buddhists mean by the void. That means it's just complete emptiness, complete peace. It's the deepest state you could ever go into, right? When Moses went to, all of this is said, but we don't listen. We don't know how to listen. When Moses went up to the mountain, I don't know if it was the first or second time, all right? He went up there and he talked to God. Moses talked to God. And he said, hey, God, I want to see you. I don't want you to be outside of me. I want to experience you fully. And what did God say to Moses? So deep. He said, if you were to ever truly see me, you would cease to exist. You can't be a human being and have seen me. Why? Okay, you merged. You're now oneness. There's no you. Hear me? Okay? And what did he tell him? What did God tell Moses? I can't show you myself because of that, but you can look at my shadow. You hide in this crevice in the rocks as I walk by, and you'll see, you'll get a glimpse of my shadow. That's all that can happen right now. Wow. That's some deep stuff. I want you to understand what's going on. He's basically saying, should you merge, you're not there anymore. There's no individual consciousness. Mayor Baba was so deep, there's true stories, right? That when he went to sleep, one of the savers, the jobs of a disciple, was to periodically open his door to his bedroom and make sure he was still wiggling his big toe. Because if he wasn't, he wouldn't be here in the morning. Don't get scared. Don't worry, you won't go there. Right? But you understand what we're saying. It's perfectly sensible. If you're going to merge back into the ocean, and the glass is gone, baby. All right? And Ramakrishna was no different. Oh my God, these beings were so great. Just the very fact that they existed is enough. You don't have to try to be like them. What happened is, he was in Sabikalpa. He'd go to meditate, and he'd just be sitting there and go, Ma, 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 tears pouring down his eye. Every hair in his body would stand on end. He was seeing what he called Divine Mother. He was seeing the light of the universe. It came and took him away. But then there was this great yogi, Todapuri, very non-dualist. What is this devotion stuff? What's the matter with you? All right? And he said, would you like to go beyond that? Would you like to go to Nirvikalpa? He was like a little boy. Let me go ask Mom. And he went to the idol Durga and said, can I go in the place? They're crazy. They have to be crazy. You understand that? So he went down into the hut, and Todapuri said, concentrate at the point between your eyebrows. And no matter what happens, don't take your consciousness off of that point. Okay? So Ramakrishna, so easy for him. It happened all the time. Sat down. Ma, going into ecstasy. Todapuri slapped him and said, I told you to put your attention to the point between your eyebrows, not take it off. He said, but Mom came and she was so ecstatic. She said, shut up. Put your attention to the point between your eyebrows, don't take it off. And Ramakrishna, he was such a great being. First time he tried, sat down, bam, went past that stage into the formless, into God himself before creation was created. I don't know how to talk to you. Do you know what this is? The science of yoga. Yoga is the science that over thousands of years, great beings meditated and went beyond, that realized who's in there. You're pretty special right there. I know you don't think you are. These states I'm talking about, you're in them right now. But you're distracted by the length of your nose, or by some spinach in your teeth, or by the fact that you burped in public. Wow. And who's in there is that. So basically, you now have a concept, an idea. It's okay to think about it, but it's not going to take you there. You have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to do that. What is the work? Now that we've had this entire discussion, the entire almost hour, right? What is the work? If I were to ask you, okay, now that you see where you're not and what is, where you really are but not, okay, what's the work? Cease to be distracted. By what? No. Cease to be distracted. When you are distracted, your awareness gets pulled down to a tiny little point. What point? What you were distracted by. Oh, she's so beautiful. I can't take my eyes off her. Okay, go do that instead of God. Do you understand that? Oh, I'm so scared. I'm afraid something will happen again that happened 10 years ago. I don't know. Okay, get distracted. Are you distracted? You hear me? The reason I'm having this talk is for once in your life where you define spirituality for what it is, It's not about getting what you want. It's not about making things be the way you want. It's about, can you not be distracted by what you're not? Can your consciousness not get pulled out into the form, into the, here, can your consciousness not get pulled out into the objects of consciousness? Which object? You didn't understand the talk if you asked me that question. If it's being pulled out at all, it's being pulled out. Is there such things as nice objects? Yes. In yoga, it's called tamas, rajas, sattvan. Ever heard those words? Tamas, rajas, sattvan. That's yoga philosophy. There's darkness, there's passion, and there's soothfulness, quiet, beauty. Those are the qualities of nature. And you've been visiting all of them, haven't you? The great teachers of yoga say, okay, tamas, that's dark. That's getting attracted to dark things. And stay away from that. That's where renunciation comes from. You're being distracted by things. Well, what about if I'm not distracted by that? Well, then you have passion. You want to do something, express yourself, and control things. And, okay, fine. You get distracted by that. You're still being distracted. Well, what about if I feel this beautiful peace and I want to keep that, I'll move out to the woods. Did it distract you, that peace? Yes. Okay. The great teachings go beyond the qualities of nature. Can't believe I'm talking about this. Okay? When you're not distracted, not what are you distracted by? Is it better to be distracted by passion and inspiration and so on than it is dark sloth? They call it sloth, right? Tired, energy, nothing. Of course it is. Good, mazel tov, grow, experience it, go through it. At some point, you realize it doesn't take you anywhere. You have to be passionate about this and passionate about that and passionate about that because it keeps coming and going, doesn't it? Doesn't stay. So now you've learned to meditate. You've learned to settle back into this peace that's inside. That's beautiful, right? There's a story about a great meditator that was asked to go on a pilgrimage with some other very great saints, way higher than he was, all right? And he said, no, I can't go. Why? Because I have to keep my practices. I have to be here in the temple. I have to do this stuff, all right? And the story is, John, he's not here. John's a potter. They hit the pot, and it was still hollow. He wasn't ready yet. It wasn't done. He wasn't liberated. He still was caught in sattvic. So what does that mean? There's a stage beyond that. Why? How could there be? Because you are the one that's experiencing those stages. Yes, one is much higher than the other. By all means, work with it, do it, express it, experience it. But someday you'll realize, I'm feeling peace, so I want to move to the woods. I'm feeling peace, so I don't want to be married anymore. I'm feeling peace, so, right? In other words, it's still conditional. It's you experiencing something that can come and go. Eventually, it's not you experiencing, you become the experience. That's when they say experiencer and experience become one. There's a merger. There's no you anymore. Oh, there's no you anymore. Well, that's weird. How does the Western world relate to that? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Christ said you must die to be reborn. You must cease to exist as an individual consciousness in order to be merged into the ocean of consciousness, in order for that little wavelet that's passing through the cup. Now you feel it as Shakti, you let go, you're starting to feel the ocean. And all of a sudden, you can be in times, very rare in your life, where you're no longer here in this box, not thought-wise. Right now, my consciousness is here. Can it be everywhere? Can you feel that your consciousness is equally in this spot and in that spot? And you start to feel this expansiveness that takes place. That's who you are. You're the divine consciousness caught in focusing on yourself. And repeat that. You are the divine consciousness caught in focusing on yourself, aren't you? So much so that you don't know there's another state unless somebody comes and tells you. And that's why there are great masters and gurus to try and tell you, hello, you're now concentrating on your thoughts, your emotions, and your body. Who is? Those are the teachers of Ramana Maharshi. Who looks out through these eyes? Who notices this thought? Who hears these words? Who is in there? Muktananda Baba, meditate on the self. Honor and worship your own being. God dwells within you as you. Those are the great teachings. Well, again, we're the Western world. Christ didn't teach that. Oh, really? As I sit by the throne of my Father, so you shall sit by my throne. And these things which I do should do these and even greater things. And what's he saying? You and I are the same. You're a great being. Why are you caught? Because you're distracted by what you're looking at instead of paying attention to who's looking. So what's the way out? Is there a way out? There's a way out for everybody. That's why you took birth. You took birth to reach the highest states. That's why you're here. Well, how does being here with all the problems, the slings and sorrows of outrageous fortune, Hamlet, okay? How am I going to handle that? You learn to not be distracted by the fact that a mosquito went mee, mee, or it's a little bit hot out. You realize, I can handle that. If I want to, I can handle that. I just don't bother. Well, how about starting to bother and understand that every single thing that you can handle that doesn't distract you and pull your consciousness out of it, like I use the example of the driver in front of you. Who's not bothered by the driver in front of them? Driving 15 miles an hour below the speed limit, never using their blinker, putting the brake on and off. Do you talk to them? Of course you do. Can they hear you? Of course they can't. You are wasting your spiritual evolution. Evolution means I can handle that. I can handle it. I know Mickey has trouble with that. I used to have a lot of trouble. He's gotten much better. So now I notice, and I stick my tongue at him, the guy in there, the little guy, right? I'll be driving. It's a 55-mile speed limit. They're going 40 miles an hour. One single lane you can't pass, okay? So at some point, you sit there and you pull out to see if you can pass, right? So you stop it. Okay, fine. I'm going to handle this. 3 blocks later, the guy turns. And you were willing to bother yourself? Or better yet, I passed them. I'm telling on them. I passed somebody because they're going that slow. And I drive for a few miles and come to a stop sign. I don't know, a minute later, they pull up behind me. Oh, I see. I could have handled that, right or wrong. And so you stop saying what I like and what I don't like. You start saying, can I handle this? Do I have to be distracted by all these stupid things? And then it gets bigger and bigger. And then somebody comes home and they're in a bad mood, which has nothing to do with you. They weren't at home. They weren't with you. Their mood has nothing to do with you. But they come home and they don't say hello and they're nice and they go in the bedroom, slam the door. That bothers you. Why? Why would that bother you? It has nothing to do with you. The person had a hard day. It's not personal. It's not an insult to you. You weren't even there. Who's willing to not get distracted by the car in front of you, by the heat, by the weather, by the rain, by what somebody said? You just built all this stuff inside your mind so that everything distracts you. You learn to not. You learn to let go. That's what letting go means. That's what it means to let go and release. You just start, okay, I don't need to be bothered by this. Oh, I would love if you do that. Let go. Just let go. And you'll find it. It makes it through eventually. And eventually you'll stop bothering you. You'll start enjoying it. Oh boy, I told you, Yog Shakti, the beautiful saint who gave us the Durga statue, she never talked about herself. She was a real saint, very, very great being. We were very close. When she leaned over to me, she said, Mickey, I said, yes, mother. Don't you just love when they yell at you? There's so much energy. In other words, she took all that energy of your anger and your yelling, and she transmuted it into Shakti pouring through her being. Why would you be bothered by it? It's fun. Wake up. That's how you liberate yourself. By ceasing to be distracted by stuff that doesn't even matter in any way, shape, or form. Okay? And once you cease to be distracted by it, you are welcome to look out in a state of peace and calm and clarity and see if there's something you're supposed to be doing about it. There may be. There's a right action. That's what Buddhists mean. There's a right action, but it's not out of reaction. It's not out of I can't handle it, so I'm going to try and fix it so I can. It's never out of that. You can handle it. You can handle anything. You're a great being. And once you do that, you'll find out nothing brings you down because it doesn't distract you enough. All right, I tried. Did we communicate? Do you understand why I use the analogy of the glass upside down and the water passing right through? The fact that you built all this garbage inside that glass and you think you are inside that glass. Right now, here I am. Not over there, right here. It's me. No, it's not. All right. I hope it helps. Master said it's good to have a pole star, something you're aiming toward. I just gave you a nice pole star. Self-realization, waking up, enlightenment, liberation. Jagged.
You've been listening to the Michael Singer Podcast, produced by Sounds True in partnership with Shanti Publications. For more information on Michael's body of work and all back episodes, please join us at michaelsingerpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening. Sounds True, waking up the world.